Discovered. The inspiring love that grew from facial burn scars. Is appearance truly important? Emily, a nurse in the small Midwestern town of Maplewood, stood in front of the mirror, desperate to find her reflection beneath the burn scars that marred her cheek. Each day she wore meticulously applied makeup, yet she felt the weight of her imperfections crowding around her like a fog she couldn't escape. The kindness of her patients at the hospital felt hollow against the deep-seated fear of judgment lurking behind their compliments. Did they see her? Or merely a reminder of something scarred and damaged? At work, her hands moved deftly, soothing aches and fears in others while her heart throbbed silently beneath layers of self-doubt. She often caught the sidelong glances, the hesitation in their voices when they discovered the story behind her face. Yet she was a ghost in her own life, nursing a heart of gold that no one could quite reach. This inner turmoil echoed like a siren, blending desperation with an almost paralyzing determination. It forced her to question, was there any beauty in a life hidden? Just as she began to reconsider the limits of her self-worth, the arrival of Alex sparked unexpected light. The firefighter bore his own hidden scars, branding his body with stories of bravery and loss. When their conversations blossomed over shared meals in the cafeteria, Emily's laughter became less guarded, her spirit more vibrant. Each revelation, they peeled back layers of vulnerability that hadn't been shared before, yet lingering shadows reminded her of the unworthiness she had always felt. The notion that even if friendship blossomed, true intimacy would remain out of reach. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Eager to prove herself, Emily signed up for the town's art competition despite the gnawing doubts. The theme of redefining beauty twisted her insides as she worked tirelessly on a piece that embodied her past, her pain, her fears, and the legacy woven into her scars. Yet with every brushstroke, her childhood rival Kayla loomed like a storm cloud, stirring chaos and shooting barbs of criticism. Just when Emily thought she had found her voice, the girl who once made her the target of cruel taunts returned, ensuring her insecurities bubbled back to the surface. It was the unveiling of a family secret, long buried, that struck her to the core. A hidden history tied to her scars shifted the ground beneath her, leaving her brain spiraling through unanswered questions. This discovery, her expression of beauty defined not just by vulnerability but by a legacy, was a lightning bolt in a safe storm. On the eve of the competition, standing before her canvas, Emily's muscles tensed with overwhelming anxiety. The road to this moment felt monumental, but even for someone with her relentless spirit, the fear of failure was paralyzing. The spotlight flickered dimly, an impending avalanche of judgment hinged on her every move. She glimpsed Alex in the audience, the warmth emanating from him momentarily quelling her nerves. Yet dread swallowed her whole. This moment could reshape their destinies, but would she rise to confront the fears that had followed her entire life? As she prepared to take the stage, the breath caught in her throat, the weight of every doubt coiling tight. Would this finally be the moment where she shattered the silence of judgment? With each passing second, Emily felt the audience's anticipation pressing against her. The noise faded, as if the world outside her frayed nerves ceased to exist. Her gaze swept over the assembled crowd, but her eyes landed on Alex, who wore an encouraging smile that electrified her spirit. It was enough to rouse a flicker of determination, lifting her above the fog that had so long encased her. Taking a deep breath, she steadied herself. This was her moment. Despite the clenching of her stomach and the pounding of her heart, she wouldn't cower in the shadows any longer. The memories of Kayla's barbs danced in her mind, yet they seemed distant now. Instead of focusing on the torment of ridicule, she steeled herself against the ache of her insecurities. She was here now, and her narrative was waiting to unfold. As she stepped forward, the stage lights illuminated her scarred visage. magnifying every perceived imperfection. Each footfall resonated with an electric pulse that reminded her of the strength nurtured through countless struggles. The canvas, her creation, was not merely paint on fabric. It was her truth laid bare, a song born from despair and resilience. When she began to speak, her voice quivered at first, but it gradually solidified, fueled by the desire to express herself. She spoke of beauty, all the forms it could take, of heartbreak, the scars that told stories intertwined with hope, vulnerability, and an unyielding quest for belonging. It was as though her wounds transformed into a proclamation of survival, reverberating against the walls of her past, confronting the harsh whispers that had haunted her for years. With every word, Emily watched the audience's reactions change. They absorbed her story, their formed judgments slowly diluting into understanding. A flicker of empathy lit in their eyes, a profound resonance with her struggles. She was not just a person with burn scars. She was a warrior who fought through the flames of self-doubt and emerged holding their ashes. When she finished, the silence in the room was pregnant with potency. Then one by one, the audience erupted into applause, as if crowning her courage. Tears prickled at her eyes, and for the first time, she didn't wish to hide. Instead, she craved for the world to see her. It was exhilarating yet terrifying, awakening a dawning realization that perhaps this was her path to growth beyond the confines of hidden shame. Yet as the applause echoed, a pointed glance from Kayla sliced through the moment. Her expression was one of disdain, a reminder that the past still clawed at her heels. Despite the triumph of sharing herself, the flicker of adversity remained alive and threatening. Could she maintain this momentum? Would Kayla's judgment tarnish her newfound strength? Turning to find Alex's gaze again, she found something beyond support, a glimmer of an ambiguous challenge. It was not just about standing in front of others. It was about confronting her own reflection with honesty. Sans the makeup, sans the fear. The lingering tension ignited the awareness that her journey was only beginning. The next step lay before her like the canvas she had just painted, inviting and uncertain. Would she rally the courage for the next confrontation, whatever that may be? Would she embrace not only the new responses from others, but also her own evolving sense of self? As she stepped down from the stage, the winds of change rustled through her, and she knew she was on the edge of something profound. An invitation to discover not just beauty amidst scars, but hope for the future. However, the true test loomed ahead, a decision that would force her into the fray. Would she finally confront the person who had personified her deepest insecurities? The stage felt like a world away as Emily stepped down, the weight of applause still resonating within her. The ecstatic claps transformed into a muffled echo, as Kayla's cold stare loomed large in her mind like a storm cloud threatening to unleash its fury. She caught Alex's gaze again, and this time she noticed something beyond encouragement. A reckoning shimmering just beneath the surface of his steady expression. Emily hadn't merely told her story, she had shared her essence, yet the ghost of doubt loomed large. How long could she sustain this newfound voice? The specter of Kayla haunted her thoughts, a reminder of every hurtful moment she had endured since childhood. Daring to confront Kayla, a figure who represented everything Emily fought against, was her next challenge. Fear gripped her. Wouldn't it be easier to retreat into the safety of silence? Yet the applause replayed in her mind like a symphony of possibility, reigniting the spark of bravery. The journey was now much more than personal expression. It felt almost like a professional calling. Could she not only combat her demons, but help others with similar scars? The notion ignited something primal within her, the raw desire to channel her vulnerability into empowerment. Backstage, surrounded by the remnants of applause and hushed afterthoughts of audience members, Emily felt the palpable shift in her reality. As she wiped her damp palms on her jeans, she recalled the way her voice had quaked and the emotional energy she had summoned. It had not been perfect. Her imperfections were evident, raw, and beautifully human. Perhaps accepting those flaws was the next layer of her growth. "Hey," Alex approached, breaking through her reverie. His tone carried a mixture of admiration and concern. "That was powerful, Em. You know you've changed the game for so many people? Did I really? She replied, her tone wavering between disbelief and a burgeoning sense of self-worth. Every word resonated heavily, filling her chest with a strange concoction of pride and trepidation. Absolutely, but don't let it stop here. What's next for you? He leaned against the wall with an ease that belied the depth of his question. The moment hung between them, charged with unspoken possibilities. Emily had bills to pay, a career to forge, and still, her art beckoned to her. Perhaps a gallery showing? Maybe a spoken word event to address collective pain through beauty? I think I want to confront Kayla, she murmured, her heartbeat quickening at the thought. It's time to reclaim my narrative, to prove to myself that she can't steal my light anymore. Alex's brows lifted in surprise, but he nodded. That's big. How do you plan to do that? I want to be honest, she said, her voice gaining momentum. No more shying away. I have to lay bare my struggles and state that her words don't define me anymore. Each syllable tasted foreign yet liberating on her tongue. The thought of facing Kayla sent a shiver down her spine. Part of Emily wanted to cuddle in the comfort of avoidance, shielded by the warmth of Alex's support. But another part, the awakened part, craved confrontation, a fire to cleanse the residue of shame that clung to her like cheap cologne. As she turned to leave the backstage area, a new clarity washed over her. Fear would exist, but growth demanded action against it. I will arrange to see her, she resolved, the weight of determination settling in. The world outside seemed more vibrant, and as Emily stepped into the light, she felt a gust of possibilities swirl around her. Each passing stranger's glance may have been a reminder of her scars, yet it was now intertwined with her narrative of resilience. Would she emerge unscathed from this impending confrontation, strong enough to carve her path? Or would the past bind her once more? The path unfurling before her sparkled amidst uncertainty, leading her directly toward Kayla, her challenge personified. The time had come to face her once and for all. Emily stood alone in her small apartment, the comforting murmur of city life filtering through her window. The warmth of her recent triumph faded as the reality of her decision to confront Kayla settled over her like a heavy blanket. She paced the room, each step a culmination of self-doubt and determination, wrestling with her next move. The thought of facing someone who had belittled her for so long filled her with an unpredictable cocktail of anxiety and resolve. Sinking onto her unmade bed, she reflected on the past years. Kayla's words had once felt like chains, binding her to a narrative woven from insecurity and fear. But the applause had unlocked something deeper within her, a voice, a purpose. Suddenly, all Emily could think of were the stories she wanted to tell, stories that could help others unlatch their chains. Could standing up to Kayla sketch the blueprint for that journey? She picked up her phone and stared at it. The mere act of choosing to dial Kayla's number felt monumental. What if she's not receptive? The thought nagged. Every nerve in her body screamed for her to retreat, to hide away and shield herself from potential rejection. But this time, the part of her that craved courage fought back. I can do this, she whispered to the empty room, determination breathing life into her words. She had been given a moment to share her truth. Now it was time to reclaim her narrative completely. Shadowing her fear was an unquenchable thirst for empowerment. It wasn't just about silencing Kayla. It was about silencing the doubts that echoed in her own mind. With quick resolve, Emily stood up and found herself in front of her mirror. Pale waves of apprehension washed over her as she met her own eyes, a softer version of herself staring back, more confident than she had ever been. Could her scars become symbols of strength rather than vulnerability? Perhaps if she confronted Kayla, she might finally see them that way herself. She took a deep breath, feeling the air fill her lungs with possibility. Okay, let's do this, she murmured, focusing on her reflection. How she presented herself mattered now. It wasn't only about image, but rather the power behind the image. For the first time, she saw the artist and storyteller within her rise above mere survival. Next steps loomed large. She swung into action, refining her arguments, meticulously planning out how she could explain the impact Kayla's bullying had had on her life. Each line she prepared served as a catharsis, anchoring her motivations in the truth she had unearthed recently. With every iteration, the message crystallized. She was not looking to perpetuate conflict. Rather, she sought the clarity that could only be achieved through open, honest dialogue. As she crafted her thoughts, a sense of liberation unfurled. The confrontation was not merely an act of resistance against Kayla's past taunts. It was her declaration of self-worth, a celebration of every flaw that had shaped her narrative. Hours slipped away until she sent the message. "Can we meet? I need to talk." Even typing it out felt like a milestone. She exhaled sharply, the weight of anticipation filling the silence. It was done. She had taken the first step toward something greater than herself, toward reclaiming her identity. But would Kayla respond? Would Emily's newfound strength withstand the collision of their histories? As night enveloped her apartment, the clock ticked on, pulling her deeper into her thoughts. Her phone buzzed suddenly, breaking the stillness. Heart racing, she glanced down. The warmth of her resolve mixed with the chill of uncertainty as she read the one-word reply. "Fine." A new wave of anxiety washed over her. Would this confrontation turn into a reaffirmation of the past's shadows, or would she emerge into the light she had fought so hard to discover? The moment weighed heavily, and with it, the realization sunk in. This wasn't just about facing Kayla. It was about confronting herself too. In this pivotal moment, Emily understood that all paths led to a singular truth, an inevitable confrontation with her own fears. Now, standing on the threshold of a new chapter, she wondered if she was really ready to confront the monster she had once been forced to battle silently. With the dawn of tomorrow just a horizon away, Emily realized that the real fight was just beginning. A battle not against Kayla, but against the parts of herself she had yet to embrace. Would she find the strength within to face both the antagonist and the unfinished chapters of her own story? As dawn broke, a hesitant light crept into Emily's small apartment, illuminating the clutter that mirrored her chaotic thoughts. Last night's anticipation felt like a thick fog, unsettling yet alive. Today was the day she would meet Kayla. She rolled from bed, the remnants of restless sleep clinging to her. A jolt of determination surged through her. She would transform her fears into fuel. Emily spent her morning pacing, rehearsing each line she had meticulously crafted. Each sentence was a careful excavation of her buried emotions, revealing not just Kayla's impact, but her own evolution. The stakes loomed larger than the confrontation itself. She recognized it was a vital crossroads in her personal journey. Challenging Kayla was merely a mirror, reflecting the need to challenge her own ingrained beliefs about her worth. The clock ticked ominously as she prepared, signaling a countdown to a pivotal moment. She chose her outfit deliberately, opting for a simple yet confident ensemble, a fitted olive green dress that exuded comfort and control. It made her feel invisible armor wrap around her. Standing in front of the mirror again, she practiced her posture, chest up, shoulders back. "This is about me," she repeated quietly, the mantra steadying her nerves. The world outside buzzed with life, yet Emily felt isolated in her thoughts, wrapped in the prospect of the meeting. When her phone buzzed with a new message, details of their scheduled place, she felt a sinking sensation in her stomach. The cafe, a spot laden with past memories, would echo with those unrelenting echoes of insecurity that Kayla had once amplified. She took a deep breath and stepped outside, the chill of early morning air sharpening her senses. "Breathe," she reminded herself, each inhale filling her with resolve. What would she do if Kayla tried to revert back to the bullying, the dismissive gestures that once invaded her life? Her heart raced at the thought, but she steadied it with the understanding that she had changed, even more so than the conversation she was about to have. Arriving at the cafe, she scanned the tables, quickly locking eyes with Kayla across the room. A wave of emotions crashed into Emily, but this time, they were washed ashore with empowerment rather than fear. Kayla appeared unchanged, exuding an easy confidence that Emily had once seen as intimidating. "Hey, you made it," Kayla greeted, her tone nonchalant, almost rehearsed. As the two settled into their seats, a silence ensued. Emily fought the urge to fill the void with small talk. She had grown tired of superficial exchanges that masked deeper issues. Here, she thought, was her moment. "Kayla," Emily began, her voice steady, "I want to talk about how your words have affected me. I've spent years trying to understand the impact of bullying and the insecurities that come with it." The statement thrummed in the air between them, heavy yet liberating. Kayla's expression shifted from casual to something more defensive, a protective veneer forming around her. "I thought we were past all that. They were just words, Emily." Emily's heart sank, but she pressed on. "Just words?" she echoed, her resolve tightening into a fist. "They shaped how I viewed myself for so long. It's time to take ownership of my story, to reclaim my identity. I refuse to let your past language define me anymore." Her words hung in the air, challenging Kayla's easy dismissal. The confrontation was spiraling into uncharted territory for both of them. Would Kayla recognize the weight of her actions? Would this open a real dialogue or provoke a defensive retaliation? As she navigated the conversation, Emily could feel the delicate threads of her self-worth intertwining with the foundations of her narrative. It was no longer solely about confronting Kayla. It was about redefining her history and her relationship with herself. A flicker of uncertainty crossed Kayla's face. For the first time, Emily saw a fissure in the armor of her former tormentor. The implication was clear. This could shift the dynamics they both had defaulted to for far too long. Yet the fight was far from over. A new layer of tension emerged as Emily braced for Kayla's next words. The future of their interaction felt precarious. It hung in the balance, waiting to be tipped one way or the other. Emily craved clarity and resolution, yet within her pulsed a fear of the unknown. Could forgiveness really blossom from confrontation? Or would it remain a mere possibility? The cafe felt like a silent witness to their evolving dialogue, poised for a revelation, one that could transform the very essence of their shared history and propel Emily further into a renewed sense of self. Would this be the moment where she reclaimed her narrative? Or would the past once again come crashing back? Kayla's response broke the pregnant silence, a hesitant, almost defensive laugh escaping her lips. "Emily, I promise I didn't mean to hurt you. It was all so long ago. We were kids." The flicker of uncertainty, though present, quickly reformed her demeanor into a subtle deflection, a familiar barrier between the two. But Emily refused to let the moment dissolve into the familiar patterns of the past. "I understand we were kids, but the memories don't just vanish because we grew up. I want to have a real conversation about how those words and actions affected me," she asserted, her voice taking on a firmer tone. She observed the way Kayla's bravado wavered, the shifting of her eyes indicating that this wasn't just a casual chat. Emily found strength in that vulnerability. It was a compass guiding her through the discussion. This was a test not only of Kayla's tolerance but also of Emily's resolve to articulate her pain and growth. "Look, I know you see me as someone who should just move on," Kayla interjected, crossing her arms. "But for me it's not that easy. You think I didn't feel the effects of my actions? That I'm just this perfect person?" The words dangled in the air, challenging yet revealing of hidden insecurities. Emily leaned closer, the tension coiling tighter in the space between them. "No one is perfect, Kayla. Not you, not me. But moving on does not equal brushing everything under the rug. I've spent so much time questioning my worth, and I believe you owe it to both of us to acknowledge how you made me feel." A moment of silence descended, the weight of her words revealing something within Kayla. Emily could feel the rush of adrenaline, a surge of renewed purpose coursing through her veins. This was more than a conversation. It was a reclamation of her voice, one that had been muted for far too long. Kayla's expression softened at the edges. "I never realized the impact. Maybe I was just trying to fit in myself." The admission rolled out, tentatively, laden with an honesty that surprised Emily. "Isn't that what we all do?" Emily replied, her tone mellowing as she attempted to bridge the divide. We mirror our insecurities onto each other, but it doesn't mean it's acceptable. What matters is how we learn and grow from it. The cafe felt like a sanctuary then, transforming into a backdrop for their burgeoning honesty. Emily sensed a shift, an opening up of possibilities. There was room for growth, both personal and mutual. But what do we do from here? Kayla asked, her voice almost timid. I think it starts with owning our past, Emily said, feeling the weight of her own insights solidifying. But it also means understanding how our actions affect others. I want to be free of that shadow that your words have cast over me. The conversation turned into a dance of discovery. Emily navigated through her own vulnerabilities, and as she did, she began to see glimpses of Kayla's too. This was no longer a confrontation. It was an understanding unfolding, a tentative acknowledgement of shared struggle. But as introspection deepened, Emily feared what the next steps would mean. She realized this was not solely an opportunity to challenge Kayla, but a step towards redefining her entire self-image. How do you create a fresh start with someone who once belittled you? She wondered in her mind, as unease bubbled beneath the surface of her newfound confidence. The dialogue waned into quieter moments, contemplation hanging weighty in the air. While there was a part of her that craved closure, she recognized another dimension emerging, a willingness to explore the complexities of forgiveness. Yet the uncertainty loomed like a storm cloud. Emily felt the ground beneath her shifting. What if forgiveness opened a door she wasn't ready to walk through? Would the act of letting go erase the scars or merely push them deeper? The confrontation had teased a fragile tranquility, but it was still precarious. Each word held the power to tear down defenses or build up new understandings. Emily reached the culmination where choices surged within. She could choose to ignite a new chapter or retreat to the safety of her previous shell. As she considered the implications of articulating forgiveness, her heart raced again, spinning towards the precarious edge of potential new beginnings. Would she find healing in the acceptance of Kayla, or would confronting her truth spell out deeper insecurities for both of them? The stakes were rising, and Emily could feel the transformative weight of the moment pressing down, leaving her poised on the brink of revelation. Emily, Kayla said, breaking through the thoughts that ensnared her. I think there's more we need to discuss. The cafe buzzed around them, filled with people and noise, yet a different silence enveloped Emily, a silence filled with the possibility of true transformation, standing ready to welcome her into a future she might not yet understand. Would she find the strength to embrace it? Emily took a slow breath, trying to mask the whirlpool of emotions crashing inside her. Kayla's words hung in the air, charged with potential, but a flicker of doubt ignited her anxiety. While the moment felt significant, beyond simple reconciliation, a nagging voice whispered caution. Kayla stirred a complex mix of nostalgia and resentment within her. It was like holding a fragile echo of their shared past in her hands. Yet how much could she truly mend? What else do we need to discuss? Emily asked, striving for neutrality, but her voice trembled with the weight of unresolved longing. The desire for reconciliation conflicted with the fear of vulnerability. Kayla hesitated, her eyes darting to the cafe window, the bustling street a sharp contrast to their heavy conversation. Maybe we should talk about how we can support each other moving forward. I want to understand you better, but I don't know how. The invitation struck a deeper chord within Emily. Support. That word held a semblance of trust, a currency she hadn't exchanged with Kayla in years. Could they both step away from their defense mechanisms to foster something real? Her heart raced at the thought of authenticity, yet skepticism bubbled beneath the surface. I'm not sure support is something I can easily offer you, Kayla. I don't want to feel like I'm just forgiving you to ease my own pain. Emily replied, her careful words a reflection of her growing resolve. I understand. I think it's time I lay bare my intentions too, Kayla urged, dropping her arms, surrendering some of her defenses. I want us to be friends again, but I need to face what I did. It starts with taking responsibility. Emily felt a rush of conflicting emotions. The idea of friendship conjured images of laughter and shared secrets, yet the shadow of betrayal loomed large. What if this new bond merely masked the festering wounds hidden beneath? "Do you even know what that means, taking responsibility?" she challenged, her tone sharpening as she searched Kayla's eyes for sincerity. "It's not just about saying, 'I'm sorry.' It's about understanding the impact of those words, your actions. It's about changing, evolving." "I know I have a long way to go," Kayla admitted, her voice quiet. "But I am willing to put the work into it. I can't change what happened, but I want to be better. I want us to be better." Emily considered this, her heart oscillating between hope and concern. The urge to believe Kayla swelled within her, battling the skepticism born from years of hurt. How could she trust that this was more than mere lip service? "Then let's talk about it," Emily finally said, her voice steadier. "Not just what we want, but the challenges we'll face. Amends can't come before honesty. We'll have to dive into it, and it won't be easy." "Agreed," Kayla breathed out, relief flooding her features. "But this is the first step, right? Admitting there's an issue is where it all begins." Emily nodded, feeling a sense of empowerment terse through her. Dialogues like these had been absent from her life for too long, and now they stood before an astonishing opportunity. The chance not only to rebuild their relationship, but to redefine it. This could be transformative, a mutual journey of self-discovery marked by the sincerity to address their flaws. Despite this flicker of hope, Emily's apprehension sharpened. Would their renewed dynamic hold up to the scrutiny of the real world? The echoes of her past raced in her mind, urging her to tread carefully, yet the heartbeat of a new chapter pulsed insistently. She had climbed walls of hurt to reach this point, her commitment to authenticity challenging her to step into the unknown. What would it mean to engage with Kayla again after all they had endured? As they sat across from one another, poised to delve deeper into their shared narrative, a creeping fear held her hostage. Would revealing their vulnerabilities forge a stronger bond? Or would it fracture them anew? "Let's make a pact," Emily suggested, a newfound conviction rolling off her tongue. "If we're going to do this, we have to promise that honesty comes first. No more half-truths, no deflections." Kayla's eyes sparkled with determination. "I promise." As the cafe buzzed around them, Emily felt the beginnings of change, a flicker of warmth igniting in the realization of potential connection, the possibility of healing stretching before her like the horizon just at dawn. But just as a new day beckoned, uncertainty brushed close. How would they tackle the shadows of their collective past, and what new challenges awaited as the truth unfolded? Was this a mere spark in a sea of uncertainty, or the first step toward something enduring? The questions hung heavy, suspended in the air, each one echoing with urgency. This was only the prologue to a very different chapter. Would their commitment to honesty triumph, or would the ghosts of their histories continue to pull them apart? Emily leaned back, her fingers nervously tracing the rim of her coffee cup. The warmth of the ceramic barely reached her heart, which felt like a tightly wound coil, ready to spring. Kayla's promise echoed in her mind. Honesty. The word seemed deceptively simple, yet its implications were profound. It felt like an ultimatum shrouded in hope, a chance for redemption or a self-imposed trap. "What if we start with the hardest thing?" Emily suggested, her voice cutting through the cafe noise like a knife. "What if we talk about the pain first?" Kayla shifted in her seat, a fleeting shadow crossing her face. She was visibly taken aback, but Emily did not relent. There had been too much hiding for too long. The prospect of dancing around the truth felt like a betrayal of their newfound commitment. "I mean, we can't just gloss over it. The things that hurt us, they're still here." She pressed on, looking directly into Kayla's eyes, searching for the courage they both needed. "I know," Kayla murmured, her gaze dropping to her hands. "I've replayed that moment so many times, wishing I could change it. The way I hurt you." Emily felt a knot tighten in her throat. It's not just about that moment. Yes, it was a turning point. But the hurt didn't stop there. It festered for years. "Tell me what it felt like," Kayla implored, her voice tinged with urgency and sincerity. "Help me understand." With each word, Emily felt both liberated and vulnerable. As she recounted the isolation that followed their falling out, the darkness that enveloped her during the moments when she couldn't share her life with Kayla, she was surprised to feel the weight of resentment begin to lift. Speaking her truth, her pain, began to unearth buried pieces of herself. "Every time I saw you with someone else, it felt like I was watching a part of myself disappear," Emily confessed, her voice trembling slightly. "I wanted to be happy for you, but I felt abandoned and sad, like I lost a part of my identity." Kayla listened intently, nodding slowly. "I never understood that, Emily. I was so caught up in my own turmoil, I failed to recognize yours. It was selfish of me." Emily took a shaky breath, the tension within her beginning to shift as she processed Kayla's acknowledgement of her past faults. Perhaps honesty could carve a pathway through the remnants of hurt. But a delicate balance remained. Emotions were like shadows, lurking and intangible, sometimes slipping through the grasp of understanding. "What do we do now?" Emily asked, the question resonating with an urgency she had not anticipated. "I think we work on the things we still do not understand," Kayla proposed hesitantly. "We tackle our baggage together. Let's uncover blind spots and untangle those past miscommunications, but we need to give ourselves time and grace. It's not a quick fix." Emily recognized the wisdom in Kayla's suggestion. The idea of tackling their emotional burdens side by side, without expectation or judgment, drew her in. It signified a shift from isolation to partnership. "Okay," she said, her resolve strengthening. "But I need to warn you, I won't hold back. This is scary for me too." "I wouldn't expect anything less," Kayla replied with a hint of a smile, their shared moment igniting a tentative connection, an inkling of what friendship could be again. Yet as their eyes met, a flicker of doubt remained. Would their willingness to engage in the uncomfortable, what now, lead to healing, or resurrect past wounds they were not prepared to face? As they left the cafe, the crisp air filled their lungs, reminding Emily that moving forward would be a challenge, but she also felt a twinge of exhilaration. "Tomorrow, we meet again to discuss more," Kayla announced, her expression animated with determination. "Let's not just talk about the past but also our hopes." Despite her trepidation, Emily felt a swell of excitement. Hopes, those had always been just beyond her reach. But as she stepped into the bustling street, her instincts questioned whether hindsight would linger, waiting to undermine their fragile resolve. Could they truly grow from what haunted them, or would old scars always mar fresh starts? The stakes for their restoration grew higher, and with it the new uncertainties loomed large. Would they dismantle fear to build a future, or would their revelations dredge up even darker truths? Tomorrow they would face it all again. But this time, the stakes felt personal. Was she ready for the confrontation that awaited, or would it be a reveal that left her more shattered than before? Emily awoke the next morning with a sense of purpose flickering in her chest, yet it was accompanied by an undercurrent of anxiety. The sunlight poured through her curtains, bathing her room in warmth, but it felt as if a storm loomed just outside, waiting to descend. There was no turning back now. Today was designated for dialogue, deep and revealing, a monumental step neither of them could afford to sidestep. As she moved through her morning routine, Emily caught herself contemplating what it truly meant to uncover vulnerabilities. Could honesty illuminate the paths of their past, or merely illuminate the darkness? She felt caught between anticipation and dread. Fearing confrontation, yet desiring closure, Emily busied herself, packing her bag with a notebook, ready to document the emotions that would surely surface. Soon the clock ticked heavily toward their meeting time. She arrived at their agreed spot, a small park with benches under the canopy of aged elms, a haven far removed from their earlier struggles. The sound of small children playing nearby served as a stark reminder that life continued, no matter the heaviness of their hearts. Kayla was already there, her expression a mixture of eagerness and apprehension that mirrored Emily's own. "Hey," she called out, waving a hand, which sparked a fleeting warmth within Emily, a reminder of shared history. "Hey," Emily replied, her voice steady despite her churning insides. Kayla sat on a bench, and with a deliberate wave, beckoned Emily to join her. The air felt electric as they settled in, stone-faced yet aware of the fragile intimacy they were trying to rebuild. "How do you want to do this?" Kayla asked, her fingers fiddling with the edges of her sleeve, betraying her discomfort. The straightforwardness of the question made Emily realize how unprepared she still was. "Maybe we can start with those hopes you mentioned yesterday. It could reveal things we want to change," Emily replied, eager to anchor the conversation in future aspirations rather than past grievances. Kayla took a breath, gathering her thoughts. "I hope we can find ways to express ourselves honestly without fear. I want our friendship to be a safe space where we can grow." Emily nodded, amazed at how much she needed to hear those words. "I want that too. But sometimes I fear that the things we talk about might bring out sides of ourselves that we don't fully recognize. What if we end up hurting each other again? It's a risk, but growth isn't comfortable, is it?" Kayla said, meeting Emily's gaze with sincerity. "We have to be willing to be honest even when it hurts. That's the only way forward." With a deep breath, Emily shared her own hope. "I want to learn to forgive myself," she whispered, vulnerability coated in courage. "I've spent so much time holding on to the anger that I forgot how to let it go. It has been suffocating." Kayla leaned in, her eyes wide with understanding. "I've felt that too. Sometimes I feel burdened by past decisions, wishing to undo my mistakes, but I know we can't change the past. We have to own it." The dialogue unfolded naturally, layer by layer, unearthing buried memories. They spoke about moments that defined them, the times when they lost trust, shared secrets, and built castles in the air that quickly crumbled. Yet, with every revelation, Emily found herself wrestling with a secret fear, a soft yet persistent inner voice whispering doubts of self-worth. Had her mistakes defined her? Would unearthing this much pain be worth it if it just led them in circles? As Kayla spoke of her own fears and insecurities, Emily began to sense the healing power of their shared vulnerabilities. "Let's face one fear together," Kayla suggested, a sudden spark igniting in her eyes. "We've talked a lot about the past. What was the hardest moment for you? What truly scared you?" Emily inhaled sharply, blood rushing in her ears. This was deeper than either of them had dared to go. The hardest moment hovered between her thoughts, the moment her life seemed to unravel and her connection with Kayla slipped away for good. In that instant, Emily knew there was no avoiding the truth. It demanded to be addressed, head on. "I was terrified of losing you," she finally replied, the words tumbling out, heavy and raw. "The truth is, I couldn't see a world where I wasn't friends with you." Silence enveloped them, the weight of her confession resting in the air. Suddenly, every unspoken word, every uncertainty came crashing down. As Emily's heart raced, she realized this moment was the crux of their journey. A confrontation not just with each other, but with their own fears. With the horizon ahead cloaked in ambiguity, one thought thrashed within Emily. Would they soon confront their own reflections, and would those shadows reveal more than just memories? The stakes had undeniably risen, and as the sun dipped slightly in the sky, Emily felt the unmistakable sense that tomorrow would lay bare the full spectrum of their truths, whatever the consequences. Emily stood before the mirror, her reflection still a reminder of her scars. But today they felt different. They spoke of resilience rather than sorrow. The tumultuous journey she had traversed with Kayla had unfolded layers within herself she never knew existed, and today she was ready to embrace who she had become, scars and all. There was great satisfaction in her heart. She had moved from being a victim of her circumstances to a powerful architect of her own narrative. The confrontation with Kayla had been pivotal, a transformative communion filled with honesty, vulnerability, and genuine growth. Trust had reignited, igniting a spark that had withered under pressure for far too long. Kayla's openness had cut through Emily's fears, revealing the humanity behind the shared pain. They had discussed their deepest insecurities, understanding that healing meant sharing not just their dreams, but also their fears. In the following days, Emily accomplished more than she had ever imagined. She devoted herself to her art as a form of expression. Emerging from the shadows of self-doubt, she painted her truth, layers of emotion, struggle, and triumph woven into every canvas. Each stroke resonated deeply with clarity and newfound confidence. Transforming the remnants of grief into a kaleidoscope of hope, she applied for a gallery showing, finally recognizing that her journey through pain was an invitation to inspire others. Moreover, Emily had discovered her voice went beyond the brush. The spoken word resonated within her. It felt like a crown, fit for her renewed spirit. She began to organize workshops where she encouraged others to channel their stories through art, to confront their demons, just as she had. Her first session was electrifying. Participants stepped forward in courage, sharing tales of resilience that echoed through the room. It became evident to her that this was a calling worth pursuing. As weeks passed, the applause she had felt in that initial competition no longer existed merely as a memory. It reverberated in her heart with new depth and weight. Each shared experience not only reinforced her growth, but further defined her role as an influential voice in her community. She had conquered self-doubt and emerged as someone with authority, an advocate for others navigating similar paths. Kayla became an unexpectedly profound ally in this venture, supporting Emily's workshops and sharing her own experiences of change. Together, they began to redefine their friendship, nurturing it with honesty, understanding, and respect. Every meetup became a reminder of their commitment to accountability. A promise echoed through the threads of their conversations, crafting a new bond rooted in mutual healing. Emily's heart soared when she received confirmation that her artwork would be showcased in the gallery. A wave of excitement washed over her, igniting an undeniable sense of accomplishment. She was being recognized not just as a survivor, but as a champion of the very themes she sought to weave into her work. The evening of the gallery opening emerged, adorned with the shimmering warmth of anticipation. As she stood amidst the crowd, surrounded by individuals captivated by her stories through art, Emily felt an intoxicating mix of vulnerability and strength. The applause echoed around her, yet felt different this time, not like a timid heartbeat fighting to be noticed, but a proud testament to her journey, echoing her triumph over insecurity. When Kayla approached, her eyes glimmering with support, it felt like the completion of a full circle, a celebration of growth and renewal. They embraced, a simple gesture that spoke volumes, binding their past with their present and illuminating their futures. Emily had achieved not only her personal goals, but a collective understanding of beauty and healing that transcended mere aesthetics. She proved to herself that she was worthy, not among veils of layers but with authenticity laid bare. As the night wore on, surrounded by laughter and art that echoed her journey, Emily reflected on her evolution. She had dismantled the barriers created by her fears, standing tall with solid confidence and established competence. The darkness that once dimmed her light had transformed into a beacon of inspiration. Now, she was ready to embrace whatever came next, because she understood that the only limits were the ones imposed from within. This was the moment to truly live, to create, to educate, and to inspire. She had conquered her past, illuminated her path, and defined her new narrative. Are you ready to redefine your journey just like Emily did? Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and theories about Emily's incredible transformation. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this empowering conclusion. You need to engage now. Don't wait even one more second to show your support for these powerful personal overcoming stories.